So, so I was recommended this video called the Cyprus Crisis from 1974. I think this might be the most modern video we have gotten so far in this channel in terms of like time. Like up until this point, the most modern I think was like World War One. So we're like in Cold War era now. So this is definitely interesting. So it's gonna be interesting seeing what the heck, is going on. And yeah, let's just watch it. This is from Kings and Generals. And let's get to it. Let's watch and learn about his telling of the Cyprus crisis.
The strategic location of Cyprus meant that it saw constant invasions throughout its history. The Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, the Franks, and the Turks all vied for it. In the second half of the 20th century, the island erupted into another war, with the local and mainland Greeks and Turks fighting a full-scale war in 1974.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually going to Greece around May. Like, it's kind of this cool little trip. Like, I'm graduating from, university with my bachelor's in English, and so I decided I kind of want to go to Greece. So, like, I'm going with my mother. We're going first to Paris, and then we're jumping to Greece. So, definitely I really wanted to go to Greece because I've been obsessed with the Greeks, like their culture, their history. And this is a pretty big point of contention that I've heard, yeah, the Greeks and the Turks have kind of had this a lot of issues. So yeah, this is an aspect that I have kind of been hearing about and learning about, and yeah, it's just an interesting, rivalry kind of between the two groups.
Welcome to our video on the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, also called the Cyprus Peace Operation, voted for by our patrons and YouTube members. If you're interested in the history of this era, don't forget to check out our second channel, The Cold War. The link is in the top right corner. Shout out to Wargaming and World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. This free-to-play team-based game features Cyprus, a strategic island in the Mediterranean Sea, inhabited by a majority Greek and minority Turkish population, had been ruled by the Ottoman Empire since 1571 up until 1878, when Britain took control over it and formally annexed it in 1914. Cyprus was under British control until 1960, when the island proclaimed its independence. But the process leading to the independence of Cyprus was far from peaceful. Greek and Turkish communities had different plans for the island, and the British had to find a solution which would keep both sides content. Greek Cypriots wanted unification with Greece, enosis. Their strongest organisation was AOKA, which sought to achieve independence from Britain first and then to unify with Greece. Turkish Cypriots wanted the partition of Cyprus between Greece and Turkey, the plan which was called Taksim. The most prominent organisation of Turkish Cypriots was TMT. Intercommunal Greek-Turkish violence in Cyprus was regular in the 1950s to 70s, and the Constitution of Cyprus, approved by the Zurich Agreement between Turkey, Greece and the UK, did not bring peace to the island. According to the constitution, the President of Cyprus was to be a Greek, elected by the Greek community, and the Vice President would be a Turk, elected by the Turks. Both of them would have veto power. 30% of the cabinet ministers and state officials would be Turks, and both communities would have high autonomy from each other. The Turkish, Greek and British armies had military bases on the island, and were the guarantors of its independence. Greek Cypriots were unhappy with the privileges provided to Turkish Cypriots, and a number of times in the 1960s violence erupted. In 1963, the violence resulted in the death of 364 Turkish and 174 Greek Cypriots, the destruction of 109 Turkish Cypriot or mixed villages, and the displacement of 25 to 30,000 Turkish Cypriots. At the time, Turkey was on the brink of invading Cyprus to protect the Turkish population, but a US diplomatic intervention and direct talks between Turkey and Greece calmed tension down a bit. By 1974,
it seems like they're trying to have it kind of both ways, in a sense that, like, alright, we can all try to get along, and obviously with the mixing of, the groups in terms of Greek president, Turkish vice president, like, they're really trying to, like, kind of have this line between the two, but at the same time, like, kind of this, like I said, it feels like they're drawing a line in the sand with some overlap, but, with the tensions, it's like one group obviously wants one thing and the other. Like with the Greeks, for example, he's saying that they want the island not only to be independent, but a part of Greece. And then, yeah, it's just there's so much to this, I think. And with conflicts like these, it makes it interesting, because it's like, you can kind of exactly see what both sides want. And, like, neither, I would say, is, like, wrong in what they want either. It's like, it's not, like, black and white, oh, they're right, they're wrong. It's not that. Obviously, there has to be compromise, but it's like, with volatile bad blood and history like that, it makes compromising hard, and coexisting difficult, I feel, is what I'm getting the vibe of, obviously. So it's like, there has to be some type of diplomatic resolution or compromise, or, essentially the bad blood is gonna keep boiling over until more violence erupts, right? So yeah.
Cypriot leadership under Makarios cooled down on the necessity of enosis, but Greece, ruled by a military junta, promoted enosis and cooperated with local pro-enosis forces such as AOKA. In 1974, the Makarios government was overthrown by Cypriot National Guard elements, led by Greek officers. A vehemently pro-enosis anti-Turkish member of AOKA, Nikos Samson, was declared the president. Turkey issued a list of demands to Greece via the US negotiator. These demands included the immediate removal of Nikos Samson, the withdrawal of 650 Greek officers from the Cypriot National Guard, the admission of Turkish troops to protect their population, equal rights for both populations, and access to the sea from the northern coast for Turkish Cypriots. They called on Britain to ensure the neutrality of Cyprus as one of the guarantors. Britain refused, and Turkey started planning an invasion of Cyprus. At the time, 117,000 Turks were living on the island, mainly in the enclaves in Nicosia, Famagusta, Larnaca, and Limassol. The Turkish Cypriots had a 10 to 13,000 man standing army and were able to mobilize up to 20,000 men. They had control of the strategic Nicosia-Kyrenia highway, which made communication for Greek Cypriots with the north of the island more difficult. The main force of Greek Cypriots on the island was the National Guard, headed by Greek officers, with a standing army of 12,000 men and 32 tanks, having the potential to mobilize up to 40,000 men. Along with that, AOKA had 5,000 men, and the elite Greek regiment, Elthig, had 1,200 men. The plan of the Turkish army, Attila I, was to land in Kyrenia and secure territories including the Turkish enclave near Nicosia, Gionyele. That would be a demonstration of force, and there was hope that a diplomatic solution would be possible after that. If not, the Turks would press on to secure the northern part of Cyprus up until Famagusta. The Turkish army was confident of success, since they considered themselves to be dominant in the Mediterranean, on sea and in the air. A naval armada of 5 destroyers and 31 landing ships would carry the amphibious forces, while the Air Force would drop paratroopers and supplies and provide air support for the entire operation. Turkey deployed 40,000 men and 180 tanks during the confrontation in Cyprus.
Okay, I think he's about to get into it. I'm like, okay, the Turkish are ready. Like, they are ready for this. You know, they have a plan and the means to execute it. I'm like, how are the Greeks responding, though? Like, are the Greeks mobilizing? If not, they ought to be at this point, right? Like, if not, then, like, it seems like the Turkish might just sweep up what they need to. And also, I'm sure he's getting to this, but, like, also, like, what the heck is, like, the rest of the world, like, NATO, thinking with this, right? Like, obviously, this is straight up, like, this will be a complete issue. Again, like, you know, this is a crisis, and there were several crises in the Cold War. Like the Cuban Missile Crisis is probably the most talked about here in America. That I even remember learning back in like history class back in like when I was a teenager. So this is definitely one that didn't get any light, at least where I'm from. So I'm a little more ignorant of this. You know, I'm pretty sure it was mentioned, but we didn't look too deep into it. You know. But yeah.
Greek Cypriots had the Aphrodite plan, which aimed to swiftly attack Turkish enclaves in Cyprus as soon as information about a Turkish invasion arrived, in an attempt to prevent them from connecting with these enclaves. On the 20th of July, 1974, the Kakmak Special Strike Force Landing Brigade, 1 battalion...
Okay, so the Turkish have a plan to frickin' mobilize from air and sea troops, and it doesn't seem like the Greeks are doing that. They're not mobilizing and sending troops. They're just gonna seem to focus on what they have already at Cyprus and try to drive out the contingents of Turkish already there. And I guess just... Again, the Turkish plan seems very solid, though. Like, in terms of just a straight up... I'm not sure invasion is the right term, but a huge military... you know, movement slash... Dang, I had the word on the tip of my tongue. Mobilization. So, yeah, so far, it seems like... Yeah, the Turkish plan seems like it could be the more dangerous in terms of the but like not dangerous in terms of them for themselves, but more for the Greeks, you know. But yeah.
Battalion of the 6th Amphibious Infantry Regiment, the 50th Infantry Regiment, and 1 company of the 39th Divisional Tank Battalion, 39th Infantry Division, the whole force consisting of around 3,000 troops and 12 M47 tanks, landed unopposed in Pentamili, a few miles from the main port of Kyrenia. 2 Greek Cypriot motor torpedo boats, the T1 and T3, attempted to make the landing more difficult for the Turks, but were destroyed on the morning of the landing. The first land attack by Greek Cypriots was made at 10 AM by elements of the 251st Infantry Battalion, supported by 5 T-34 tanks. The Turks managed to repel the attack, disable all 5 tanks, and advance. An attack by elements of the 281st, 316th, and the 286th Battalions, led by National Guard Staff Officer Lieutenant Colonel Bufas, initially forced the Turks to retreat, but eventually the Turkish 50th Infantry Regiment was able to regain the lost ground and force the Greeks to dig in. Elsewhere, near Nicosia, by the Turkish enclave Gönyeli, the landing of Turkish paratroopers was disastrous, with more than 90 of 120 men losing their lives. 550 men and 20 tanks of Eltvik began the siege of Gönyeli, which was a strategic point on the Kyrenia-Nicosia road, cutting the island from the north to the center. Turkish Cypriots were prepared for the siege and heavily fortified the area with defensive and anti-tank structures. They were able to repel the initial Greek attack, and the following counterattack by the 399th Battalion inflicted significant damage to the Greek Cypriots, with at least 4 of their tanks being destroyed in the process.
Again, I will say, like, when they were breaking down the plan, the Turkish definitely had a full-on military mobilization plan with use of both sea and air, and the Greeks' Aphrodite plan, by comparison, did not seem the weaker of the two. Obviously, I don't know everything, so we're seeing it play out, but again, air superiority is a pretty big thing, as is sea superiority, which the Turkish are demonstrating they have both at the moment. And the Greeks are constantly being repelled back, and their things are being destroyed, so far it seems to be the Turkish plan seems to be the superior one, and their execution is also like it seems to be decent a bit. So I don't know. Like I said, I guess we still have more time to find out. Where's NATO? And now my mind's going, where the heck is the rest of the world? Britain was there, kind of this third party. Then they just refused the Turkish demands, and now they're just gone. And it's just now, this is a straight up like freaking battle here for Cyprus. Like, I'm just thinking, what the heck is NATO doing? Like, while this is going on.
On the 20th of July, the Greek Cypriot forces attacked the Turkish Cypriot enclaves at Limassol, Paphos, and Agaita Nicosia with different levels of success. In Limassol and Paphos, the Turks were defeated, and many were taken as prisoners of war. On the same day, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 353, demanding all foreign military personnel leave Cyprus and calling on Britain, Turkey and Greece to start negotiations to restore peace on the island. On the 21st of July...
Okay, let me get that again, I apologize.
Britain, Turkey and 353 were defeated, and many were taken as prisoners of war. On the same day, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 353, demanding all foreign military personnel leave Cyprus and calling on Britain, Turkey and Greece to start negotiations to restore peace on the island.
Okay, so United Nations just said, okay, cut it out, let's make peace, let's talk it out, guys, let's talk it out.
21st of July, Turkish destroyer Kocatepe was hit by friendly fire after deception by Greek Cypriots, and sunk with all of its 53-person crew.
Oh snap. Deception? Holy crap. Okay, the Greeks seem to be doing better over in this area here of the island.
The Greeks also suffered from friendly fire, as approximately 30 commandos died when a Nor-Atlas aircraft transporting them from Crete to Cyprus was hit by Greek Cypriot anti-aircraft guns. The junta in Greece understood that local Greek Cypriot forces were not strong enough to defeat the Turks. The 537th Infantry Battalion, a battalion of tanks, and 500 Cypriot volunteers were sent as reinforcements. In the morning of July 21st, all Turkish enclaves in Limassol and Larnaca were taken by the Greeks. Thousands of Turks were taken as POWs. Other enclaves of Lefka, Denizli, Famagusta, and Limnitis were also under attack. On July 22nd, the second wave of Turkish forces, including a tank company and a mechanized infantry company, arrived in Cyprus. The Turks attacked Kyrenia, which was defended by 33 MK Commando and the 306th, 251st, and 241st Infantry Battalions. They were able to take the town after losing 5 tanks. The force which took Kyrenia was able to establish communications between Kyrenia and Gionyele. This was an important achievement, as firstly a Turkish enclave in Gionyele was protected, and secondly, controlling Kyrenia allowed Turkey to send more troops to Cyprus. Greek defeats in the first days of the war led to the collapse of the junta regime in Greece on the 23rd of July. Britain tried to restore peace by organising negotiations between Greece and Turkey on the 25th of July. These talks went on until August 14th and did not achieve success.
Okay, so yeah, again, like it seems like the Greeks' mobilization was a bit faltery, while the Turkish are executing it much better, their military mobilization. And yeah, obviously there's issues with the Greeks back home, as we just established, and friggin' Britain. Let's talk it out, guys. Let's talk it out. Like, obviously the talks aren't working, so this is the reason this is all happening. So just freaking everyone else talk it out. Like, no. Compromise. This is why I kind of like respect freaking diplomats, because like freaking you have to like really, there are some situations it's hard to compromise big time. I remember once in one of my classes that like a lawyer visited, or no, she wasn't a lawyer, she was a negotiator, she said, and that her job was to negotiate, you know, deals between like I think like businesses or something. And essentially we had this like mock group negotiating thing. Like many of us in the class would be paired up, you know, and we would be given prompts of things we needed to negotiate on behalf of our clients, our, you know, fake clients. And I suck so bad that day. Like, I don't think I want any major success. That's why I know I can't be a freaking negotiator or crap. But that was just like this mock little, thing, you know? Like, I can't imagine freaking having to try to be diplomatic in like times of war where, like, you know, countries are just like on the brink of full on we're fighting now. So, yeah, it's like there's just some situations it's hard to reach compromises in, because, you know, like I said, I don't envy people who actually do that. Like that seems incredibly frustrating and hard to do. And sometimes even when you compromise, one side's never gonna be fully happy, you know? Like, they don't get everything they want, just enough to at least be like, oh, whatever, we'll settle, you know, essentially. So, yeah, I don't know.
Turkey demanded the federalization of Cyprus, allowing the transfer of populations. The new president of Cyprus, Clerides, asked for 2 days to make a decision, but Turkey demanded an immediate answer and commenced its second wave of offensives on August 14th, Attila II. 2 more infantry divisions were transferred to Cyprus. Greek Cypriots organised their defence along the Troodos line, which left 40% of the island accessible to Turkish troops. Its western sector started from the sea and went on until the Nicosia airport, and was defended by the 11th Tactical Group. The central sector spread from Nicosia International Airport and ended at the suburb of Nicosia, Mia Emilia. It consisted of the 212th Reserve Battalion, Elzek's Camp Detachment, 3 companies, the 336th Reserve Battalion, reinforced with various companies with a total strength of 1,300 men, the 211th Battalion, and the 187th Artillery Battalion. The eastern flank consisted of the 12th Tactical Group and the 9th Tactical Group, and expected the strongest Turkish attack. The total size of the Greek forces numbered at around 20,000 men, with 21 T-34 tanks. Turkish forces consisted of 40,000 men, mainly in the 28th and 39th Infantry Divisions, 1 armoured regiment, with 1 tank battalion and 1 mechanized infantry battalion from the 5th Armoured Brigade, the Turkish regiment on Cyprus, reinforced with 1 parachute battalion and 1 battalion from the 50th Regiment, 1 commando brigade, 1 paratrooper brigade, 60 to 200 tanks, 200 APCs, and 120 field guns. Added to them were the remaining 5 Turkish Cypriot regiments with 19 battalions. Turkey's target was to connect with Turkish enclaves in Famagusta and Limnitis. Attila II started with the Turkish 39th Division attacking the Mir.
In terms of numerical superiority, yeah, the Turkish have it. I'm getting a feeling that they're going to be very effective. I mean, numerical superiority, and just so far they really have been super effective. So I'm having a feeling that they're going to continue that. Though I don't know. I guess we'll see if the Greeks can at least prevent them from achieving their goal.
Melia defensive line, defended by the 399th Battalion. The Turks were able to push through, and together with the 241st Battalion, the Greek Cypriots fell back to Famagusta. In the central sector, the Turks were met with heavy resistance and their advance was limited. On the 15th of August, only 341st Battalion with 3 T-34 tanks resisted the Turkish advance, while the rest of the 12th Tactical Group retreated to Larnaca. By evening, Turkish forces entered Famagusta. The Turkish 28th Division advanced 6 kilometers in the western sector on that day as well. On August 16th, the Turks reached Morphu and Limnitis. Thus, the aim of the Attila II offensive was achieved. Turkey's campaign in Cyprus led to the occupation of 40% of the island.
Holy crap, that was correct. Like, just the Turkish have been very impressive so far in terms of their, mobilization and execution. So again, the Greeks are on the back foot for the most part. Like, the Turkish seem all in this, But I feel like they're the Greeks, by comparison, at least from their home base, haven't been as proactive as the Turkish.
The island was divided by the so-called Green Line. Greek refugees, amounting to 160,000 people, left for the Greek-controlled parts of Cyprus, while Turkish refugees moved to the part controlled by Turkey. During the war, the Turks lost up to 3,500 men, while Greek losses amounted to 6,000 men. Subsequently, the Turks declared the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is not recognized by the international community. To this day, Cyprus remains divided, despite numerous attempts to reach an agreement. The video's in full 3.
Wow, and that's it. Kind of reminds me of frickin' like Korea, and just how that's divided and probably will remain so. So all this over, that island. Yeah, like I said, I've heard about the Turkish/Greek, tensions. So it was interesting to see a video about that. And yeah, overall, just another greatly executed video. I did really like his use of visuals, And like I said, Kings and Generals is my favorite historical YouTuber. I love watching his videos. I never get tired of them. He is my favorite historical YouTuber. And once again, just another well-executed video that I really loved. And, I'll just say that I'll leave it at that this was another great video. And, well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.